What's up there, YouTube? Burns here. Okay, got an update on some shit. See, I got the tower gusseted now. So and painted. So now the tower is ready to go back up, and I've painted only about 32 inches from there because I know that the blade clearance will be just shy of the end of the white. So for now, the white is going to basically be the danger zone for the rotating area of the turbine. But yeah, everything's painted up now. I got it all prepped and ready to go, and everything's welded. Everything's gusseted. I put 4 gussets. See if I can rotate this. This thing is heavy. So there we go. I got 4 gussets on there. Some extra steel. It's 1/8 inch steel, but it'll work just fine for what we're using it for here. It'll be nice gussets. Everything is still true and square. I was able to heat it or weld it just right, so there's no deflection in the steel plate. Right now I just have it hanging out over the wood stove here with the stove going to help cure the paint a little bit quicker. I mean, it's not going to really be 100% cured until I give it a few days, but I don't want to really give it a few days because it's starting to snow and the wind is picking up. So I really want to get the tower up, and the only thing left to do now is gusset the turbine mast. So that way I can get this painted, and as soon as I get this painted, I'll give it like 20 minutes to dry, like a speed dry right over the stove, and then pull the wires through. I was going to originally, see, I got this box. I was going to originally put this box on here, but it's too big. I didn't think it was going to be as big as it is, but after kind of like experimenting a little bit with location and everything, and don't mind the background mess, this is just piled up shit. I was going to give you a shot of them before I painted it, but I wasn't able to because of I wanted to hurry up and get it painted and start drying it out because of the snow coming. But here we go. Here's the top of the tower. You can see how that 2-inch pipe fits perfectly on the inside of that hole. I mean, there's maybe a 1/16 of an inch lip on the inside, so that'll be really nice for that. That's really all I got to say about it right now. Everything it's welded and it's tight. It's watertight, so no water can get in through this seam here, which is important. You don't want water entering your tower and running down it into your building if it's inside like mine is. I'm going to give this probably another 15 to 20 minutes to cure over the fire. Like I said, it's not going to be totally cured. I mean, it's still a little sticky, but it's not coming off. But like I said, it's not going to be totally cured because there's not enough time. I have to get it up because there's a hole in the roof, and I need to get this back into the vent cap that's up there. Yeah, see if we can get a shot of the attic here. We just put new attic steps in, but here's the hole. Comes through, and just above that hole, I can't zoom in any farther. Right there, right through the wood, is a rubber vent cap for a 2-inch pipe. Or, well, 2-inch PVC. I think I have it at 1.5 inches or something. I only took the 1 ring out of it. So it fits snugly around this tower perfectly and gives me perfect seal up there on the top of the roof. So it's watertight from that point up. It's watertight here now. It'll be watertight from here up, and then it's just the top of the turbine that has to be taken care of. But I have a idea for that, and because of the way it's going to be, it's not too big of a concern right now. Just like I said, I just have to get this thing up. That's going to be the hardest part. This is the whole hardest part of the entire project. It's not taking the turbine off of the tower. It's not hooking the wires up or disconnecting them. It's not even installing the blades. The hardest part of this entire project is taking this tower out of the roof. lifting it up, especially by myself, because I just generally work by myself. I work better when I'm alone. But it's such a heavy beast. It's Schedule 40 steel tube, structural steel tube with it's seam welded, and it's 16 feet long. Actually, I think it's just a little bit, it's like maybe a half an inch longer, but we'll call it 16 feet from end to end. And then I'm adding another 20-inch piece. This thing here is 20 inches. So we're actually going to be gaining 2 extra, I'm going to say we're going to be gaining 20 inches of height from the original tower height, which will be great, because that'll get me up a little bit higher. Yeah, it's only 20 inches, but you know, it's higher than what it was before. Because before the motor head was right, or the generator head was right here, and now it's going to be like up here. So I'm basically going to be gaining, let's call it 16 inches of generator height, which will be great. It'll work out really nice. So, like I said, it's just a quick update. I just wanted to let you know what was going on. We're going to let it cure a little longer here, and then we'll get it up on the roof. Oh, I figured I'd give you a little bit of information on the tower itself. Here's the hooks that I welded on. I made these out of some flat steel, the same stuff that the gussets are made out of. That's what these are made out of. I just basically welded or cut a little V-notch out of them, like so. And we can get in focus here. And the guy wire hoop slips over this and sits in this little notch here, and then it pulls in this at the same angle that this is cut, so it's a perfect setup. There's no rings that slip up and down on the pole. There's nothing to bend and move. These are really, really strong, and that's what holds my guy wires in place on the tower. Really great setup. It saves a lot of aggravation, and they're 120 degrees off of each other. So 120 degrees from that one to this one, and 120 from that one to that one, and so on and so forth. And this one here, this is the front of the tower. This is the one that faces the front driveway, front of the building. And then the two guy wires are in the rear. Now the reason I did 2 in the rear and 1 in the front is because of the solar panels. Having 1 guy wire to work around is much easier than having to work around 3 guy wires or 2 guy wires in the front. It's a much smarter way of doing it. So yeah, that's basically it. Alright guys, I figured maybe I'll give you a little information on how I'm making these gussets for these towers. Just to show you, what I'm doing is I'm taking some of this flat stock here. This is 1/8 inch by 2.5 inch wide hot rolled flat stock. It comes in 20-foot lengths when I get it, so you can see, and it's super freaking flexible. Again, don't mind the mess. It's just trying to do turbine work while I'm cleaning and then reorganizing and remodeling the garage a little. So anyway, so I take this, I cut it about 4 inches long from here to here, and then I end up with one of these. Okay, nice flat piece of steel. And then what I do is I take this piece here that I cut out accidentally, and this was my first test piece. Actually, this one here was the first test piece. But I wasn't able to get even amount of metal out of one. I kind of cut it a little bit off-centered. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the bigger piece, I place it on my next piece of steel, okay, like that. I run a line with this stuff here. It's just a marking pencil, chalk or whatever the hell it is, soapstone. And then I do this, flip it over, do the same thing. I make sure it's squared up on the edges, make another mark, and then I'll take the angle grinder with an 1/8 inch or a 1/16 inch cutting disc, and then I'll cut it right directly in the center of those 2 lines. And then in the end result, I get 2 evenly cut pieces of steel, which I then clean up with a flap disc, which I'm using a 60 grit, or this is 80 grit. 80 grit flap disc. Put it on a grinder, put it in the vise, clean all my edges. This is already prepared. This is ready to rock and roll, ready to weld. So that doesn't need any further cleaning. But these will get cut, and this will give me my 4. So I'll get 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I don't cut them at the same time because they are a little bit different. The way the soapstone writes, it doesn't write perfectly because the tip is all nasty. So it's just what I use. It's just how I do it. So I'll get these cut out, get them cleaned up, and welded onto this. Alright guys, here is my weld. Welds. Plural. This pipe, I just finished, I just shut the welder off, so I figured I'd grab the camera. I didn't even clean it up yet. I just wanted to give you a quick visual, a visual of my welds. I didn't get a chance to show you them on the tower side of it, so I figured, well, I'll show you on the turbine side of it. But yeah, I mean, some of them might look a little better than others. I mean, that one there on the top looks a lot better than the one on the bottom. And yeah, you can see some of them here. I gotta be careful, they're still fucking hot. You can see there a little bit of blowout there, but that's okay. A couple pit holes too, and a little bit of spatter, but it's not terrible. Not terrible. So what I'll do is, let me rotate it here. I'll put it in the vise so I could rotate it a little bit. Get my clamp out of the way. But yeah, as I know some of you guys are welders by trade, and I am far from that. I mean, you can see that those are 2 sloppy welds. I'm really disappointed in them. The base welds though are pretty good, because those were all downhill welds. See, I love welding downhill. I'm most confident welding downhill. The horizontal welds, for some reason, I don't do as good. I just think it goes against my natural motion when I'm welding. But see, there's another downhill weld. That's not a downhill weld. They're kind of sloppy, but they'll do the trick. I mean, that's that nasty one. Those are probably the 2 best welds on this entire project, or at least on this half of the project. But yeah, there you go. That's just to give you an idea. I mean, you can see that base weld. Let's see if I can show you the base weld. The base weld is, I'm the most proud of this weld out of any of them. Let's try not to get burned here. See, there's that base weld. I am probably most proud of this weld out of all of them, because it's all, with the exception to that little black spot there, the base weld is probably the best, because that's normally how I weld right there. That's my normal welding, but for some reason I just didn't do as good. I'm at the wrong angle. I'm not in a comfortable position how I'm welding this. I'm welding in a vise. Typically I like to weld when it's floating in the air, but you know, it is what it is, I guess. But that's it right there. I mean, there is, let's see if we can get this in focus. So there's the base. The base is welded. It's still fairly true. I mean, I know I probably pulled out a little bit, but I know it sucked the base up just a little in the one spot, but that's all right. For what it is, I mean, precision is not everything in this particular instance. But you can see how I have my gussets, there's an air gap in the bottom. So if I ever needed to, for whatever reason, I could strap something to it if I had to. Not that I will, but you know, it's just nice to have those gusset holes there, or those spaces. It turned out pretty good. I'm pretty impressed with how this is turning out. This entire project is turning out a hell of a lot better than I ever anticipated it. I didn't think it was going to be this good. Ooh, that pipe's getting hot. So now I just got to let it cool down just a little bit. I'm going to clean off some of the schmeg. Hit it with the wire brush real quick, and then I'm going to get it painted. Okay, so we got it cleaned up and painted. So we're finally ready. There we go. See, it turns out, it looks really good when it's painted. It really does. It looks nice. It looks freaking awesome. I can't wait to get this bastard up on the damn tower. So, what we're going to do now is, now that it's here hanging. I'll move the hanger over so I'm right over the stove, and I'll lower it down just a little bit so it's basically hovering. Everything from like up here in this area is baked and it's dry because of the heat. I didn't let it cool very far. I used the wire brush on a drill thing here. This thing. It's not the greatest. It actually sucks really bad, but it helped me clean up everything. And I didn't get everything off. I'm not going to go to great lengths to try to clean it up because it's only a functional part. It's not aesthetically supposed to look good. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I realize there's a few different things I could have done to make this the way it is or make it a little differently, but this was the way I did it in a pinch. I really like the way it turned out. I'm very happy with it. So now it's just a matter of letting it dry a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bolt it to the workbench. And then I'm going to get the turbine on it while it's on the bench here. And get everything set up so all I have to do is carry it up to the roof and bolt it in. And then connect the wires. But the snow is getting heavier, so I'm trying to hurry this up a little bit, but still maintain good shit and make sure it stays right. Okay guys, I'm going to do a different perspective here on, or a different angle view, whatever you want to call it. Different perspective on what I'm going to do with the turbine here. So I got in, didn't wait very long. I only waited about 15 minutes for the pipe to kind of dry. I'm not really all that worried about it. I'm anxious to get it up. That's the thing. I'm just anxious to get it up. So what I'm going to do is I have the base. It's anchored to the workbench. I have the turbine here. I have the roller bracket here down just out of view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I'm going to go about installing the roller bracket, which normally it's not painted. I have it all painted white. You can see it in a way earlier video. I think sometime last year I did all this. But I'll show you. We'll install this. We'll install the roller disc. We'll get the turbine on it, and I'll show you how to do the adjustment. Okay, what I'm going to do initially is I'm just going to put everything on the tower. Now, this makes it a hell of a lot easier to do this, being that this is, anchored to the bench. So when you get your roller bracket, you're going to want to, if it's not already assembled like this, you're going to want to start your bolts and just get them started. You don't want to get them too tight where they won't fit over the pole, but get them started so you can slip it over as one unit. I'm trying to deal with wet paint here, so it's being a bitch. Okay, so I got that dropped on, and then you take your disc. I know it's in shambles. It's been moved around a bunch of times, so it's all nasty. Then you lower this down right onto your wheels. Okay. So now that you have that there, you want to go ahead and install your turbine. Now you could do this a couple different ways. You could do it already assembled, or you could assemble it on the pole. I'm going to suggest assembling the turbine on the ground. Don't be on a ladder trying to do it, because that's just dangerous and stupid. See how there's a little bit of play? I'm going to show you how to fix that too. But first, we have to get the roller bracket assembly lined up to where it's supposed to be, because we need the weight of the turbine resting on this and not on your tower up here, because you don't want it rubbing up here, because this is where you're going to get some friction. So let's get this lifted up and installed. Okay, so this is going to be the hardest part. Now, what I like to do is I like to try to get a measurement of where it's got to go, and then kind of work from there. Like, I'm going to give it a little bit more than a 1/16 of an inch gap up here. I'm going to probably go maybe an 1/8, just so that way I know there's plenty of room there. So basically what we want to do is, you see this plate here, I'm going to mark. So that mark right here is where this disc rests underneath the turbine the way it is at rest. So now I have a reference point. So now I'm going to remove the turbine and scratch the hell out of my paint. Okay, so now you can see we got the turbine out of the way, we got the roller wheels up a little bit higher, and I got them kind of tight so they stay put. You can see how I'm already marking up the paint and everything. This is where the disc sat at rest with the turbine lying on the pole. So what I'm going to do, let's put this back on here, and I don't know if you can see that, but you can see where I have the roller bracket where it's just riding on the disc here, and it's just on that line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise it up about 1/8 of an inch. See if we can get it on this here. Okay, so I'm going to raise it up about 1/8 of an inch, so when it's level-ish, it's just off of that line to give us enough clearance. I'm actually giving it a little bit more clearance because I know once I put the weight of the turbine on here, it is gonna reset, squash into the wheels just a little bit because it's not really that heavy. So once you get it set to where you want it, this is when you can go ahead and tighten down the bolts. It's easiest to do this with a ratchet and a wrench as opposed to 2 wrenches. But, this is what it is. This is how I'm doing it. I'm not on the tower on a ladder, so I can do it like this. Okay, so here we go. So now we'll drop this back on. And you can see there. Okay, so there you go. Now you got your roller disc on, and now I'll reinstall the turbine. Okay, so there you go. So now you can still see that is still above the line. I mean, it looks like it's on the line, but it's not. We now have about a 1/16 to an 1/8 inch gap on the top of the tower. And that's what you'll want, because that's going to give you your buttery smooth rotation with the PMA assembly up on the whatchamacallit. If you notice, there's a little bit of wobbliness, right? And when the turbine's up on the tower, that can get really loud really quick. So one thing I'm going to do, and I'm taking this idea from Billy, put some black tape right around there. So to do that, I'm going to mark it. Can't mark the bottom side, so I'll just mark the top. Some marker. Lift it up off of the tower again. So take some electrical tape, and as evenly as you can, I'm going to do 3 turns. I know it's not the most even, but whatever. I'm going to do 3 turns there. And then I'm going to do, now make sure when you do this you pull the tape as tight as you can. And this will basically take out any of the slop that you may have. There you go. Now you have 2 bands on your pole. And that'll take up the slack. So when you lower the turbine back on, nice and slow, I think I might have put too much. I'm just going to wobble it until it goes down. Yeah, I put too much on. You only need 1 or 2 wraps. You don't need as many as I put on. I thought the gap was a little bit bigger than it is, so I'm going to lower it down. And there we go. So now, your play is much smaller. Okay, so most importantly, you have to remember to grease it. I like to use this as 2+2 red grease. It comes in a spray can, aerosol can. I'm not going to do it right now because I have to still take this apart and get it up on the tower. So we're going to do that now. It's installed. It's working like a freaking charm. I had the brake on and we had such a light breeze blow in. It was trying to turn before I even had the blades tight. It's tracking, it's greased. You probably see some red shit flowing on there. The ladder is nowhere near the blades, so don't worry about that. I don't know if you could hear it. A little breezy out here. I'm hoping you're not getting any wind noise on the mic, but yeah, it's tracking the wind real nice. What a pain right in the ass that was getting that up there. Well, it was really my fault. I'm being stupid. My mouth was frozen, but look at the roof. I don't ever advise anybody walking on a roof. You can see my path right there from the ladder. The roof is frozen. I was trying to get it done before the sun went down, and the sun is going down. Even though it's cloudy as shit today, and it's freezing raining right now, like freezing drizzle. But it's up there. There's a little bit of a wobble to it, but it's so little. It's not really anything that I'm worried about. I have right now the 7 blades up there. We'll start with the 7 blades and then we'll work our way around a little bit. But look at how beautiful that's tracking. And the wind is coming out of the east right now, and that's a tree right in front of it. And it's just tracking so perfectly. I mean, I know the Windy Nation tracked really well, but it didn't track as good as this is, because I didn't have a decent mount system on there. But I love the way that mount turned out. It looks like I actually knew what I was doing when I put it up there. So, sorry about my sniffly nose, but my face is frozen because I was just out here doing this. I gotta figure something out for the wires coming out, because I really don't like how they just come out of the top and all that fun jazz. So I have a couple ideas. I'm gonna try something. Not now. I'm probably gonna wait until it's above freezing, and we'll go from there. But yeah, that's done. That is installed. And tomorrow, when the weather warms up a little bit, it's supposed to be near 40 something, I'll come out and I'll get the ladder down, because I know I'm basically done up there. But it's humming away. It's putting out power right now, even in this light wind. It's probably maybe 8 or 10 mile an hour, but in like a 6 mile an hour wind, it wanted to start. And we'll do all that crap later on. We'll do a low wind startup, we'll do power output in low winds, and we'll do high wind output too, because I know I'm in a prime location where I'm at right now. When you look at the tower, if you look at the ladder, let me zoom this out a little bit. You can see, you see the white, where the white starts on the tower? There's the top rung is right about there. The next rung below that, the second from the top rung, which you can kind of see, and the rung below that, right where the guy wires are, there's a rung. Right in between those two rungs is the roof line of the house. So the tower is higher now because of that 2-foot extension on the top, or that 20-inch extension on the top. It's now almost 18 feet in the air. So we're 18 foot from, I don't know, I don't care. It's up high enough and it's working. So we'll do some wind, because the wind is picking up. I had to get this in ASAP because the wind is picking up. So, all right, guys. We'll have more update videos as we go. But am I happy? Yes. Happy to have this up? Oh, you ain't kidding. All right, thanks, guys. See you in the next video.